Good morning. Thank you everyone for showing up to our unveiling of the Strangeloop mobile site optimizer. We're very excited to have this webinar. You'll see on the right hand side an option to ask questions. I encourage questions during the session. I'll try to get to as many as I can. Those that I can't get to, I will certainly get to after. My name is Joshua Bixby. I'm the co-founder and president of Strangeloop Networks. And today is all about our new product, the mobile site optimizer. Now, our product comes out of a long history of doing work in the enterprise and making customers more money. Ultimately, the desire and the focus on mobile came from our customers who came directly to us and asked us to improve their mobile user experience because their mobile users were growing, and we're seeing an incredible growth in the audience, in the mobile user audience. People that are mobile only, who only access your site on a mobile device. Also, obviously, people that access both on a desktop and on a mobile device, but where mobile is becoming their dominant platform for accessing the e-commerce sites, the information sites, even the internal sites that our customers have. One of the things that we've learned about mobile users is they are actually the same user as on the desktop, i.e. they have a very short attention span. 74% of users will bounce if they wait more than 5 seconds. We also know that sites, even those like M.dot e-commerce sites, mobile specific sites are slow. So we've got incredible increase in the use of these devices, tablets and smartphones. We've got a very impatient community. We also have a community that expects the full user experience. And so one of the things that we found in our research was that customers who go to M.dot sites and have the option for a full site view are choosing, a third of them are choosing to see the full site. So again, we have users who want a very rich experience, often richer than what a traditional M.dot site can provide. What we're talking about here in the mobile site optimizer product, what we're talking about unveiling is a product that's going to make websites faster. When I talk about websites, I'm talking about mobile sites, i.e. sites that are specifically designed for mobile devices, as well as standard websites that will be accessed over a smart phone or a tablet device. We are not talking about accelerating apps, specific apps. We're also not talking about converting from a standard website to a mobile website. There are many, many companies that do this. That is not the business that we're in. What we did when we started this project is we looked and asked ourselves why mobile is different. We got banks of iPads and iPhones and Android devices, and we really asked ourselves, why are these different? Now, obviously, we studied the components of a mobile web page load. Clearly, this is very, very similar to a desktop page load, absent the tower connect time, which does happen in the network. But there are actually very significant differences that we see on mobile versus desktop. Some very obvious ones: the screens are smaller or might be different than we see in a traditional desktop environment. We touch them instead of clicking them. And then there are some real differences in terms of the overall network infrastructure, round trip times, which are significantly higher. Latencies of 200 milliseconds on a traditional smartphone on 3G are not unheard of. Low bandwidth, high packet loss. We also have seriously under-equipped, at least when we compare it to a desktop environment, processing speeds, parsing speeds, things of that nature. So what we did is we sat down, we understood what the differences were. We went and really tried to establish some guiding principles. And the guiding principles are not unlike the business that we're in today, optimizing sites for desktop, which are: we want to reduce round trips, we want to reduce payload, we want to defer as many things as we can, we want to parse as little as possible. What we really came out with was this 10-to-1 principle, where what we found was that actually everything is amplified. Each round trip takes more time. The more payload we send takes more time. So we started to develop internally this principle where for every 10 round trips that I could save in a desktop environment, which we would get excited about in the business today, 10 round trips on a page with 130 is a good win, something we'd care about. I actually care about 1 as much as I'd care about 10 in the desktop environment. So we set about building the mobile site optimizer. The mobile site optimizer was built from the ground up to think differently about the delivery of mobile. And I get this question a lot, and I just saw 2 come across the wire here. There is a real misconception that the traditional tools and techniques that we've adopted and built for the desktop environment will just seamlessly work here. In fact, that's not true. Embarrassingly enough for us, when we took our standard site optimizer, we turned it on to desktop sites, or we turned it on the desktop product and turned it on to our mobile sites, we were not improving performance as much as we like. In fact, in some areas, and I'm embarrassed to say this, we were not improving performance at all, which is why we had to completely rethink the architecture and the process to rewrite sites. Now, looking at this architecture diagram, a few things come out that are very important. One, we rewrite differently for different devices, which has traditionally been our business for the desktop environment, i.e. we'll rewrite differently for IE than we might for Chrome. This is exactly the same. We just change browsers, and all of that scaffolding exists. We just have to layer on top of it new what we call treatments or optimizations for the browsers, because they are different browsers. What we have here is an architecture. When we really look at the transformation of HTML, this is a process which is essentially a process where we find elements in an HTML as it's streaming across the wire, replace them with optimized versions of that. And that could be moving something to the bottom. It might be taking an image and replacing it with a consolidation. There are many things that we do in the transformation. Most of the things that we do in transformation, almost all of them, are things that take time, energy, and we really need to spend time getting them right, which is why we have an offline compile process. So a page that comes through the system, we identify based on a key. For simplicity's sake, let's call that the URL, so www.cnn.com, what browser it's on, and whether the user's been to the site or not. We use a number of items for the key. You'll see as we go through, we introduce new items in the mobile product, like somebody on 3G versus 4G versus Wi-Fi. We use that to identify how to best rewrite a page. But for simplicity's sake, we'll call it a URL and a browser and whether the customer's been there. We take that information. If we haven't already seen that combination of elements, we bring it down into our offline compile process where we render that page specifically like the user would see it. We run our algorithms to get to query that DOM, basically what your browser builds up in order to figure out how are we going to transform the HTML and the resources. We create an acceleration template. We do all of our integrity checks, and we'll get to integrity checking, which is an important part of the mobile release, and we push that back up to the inline rewriter. When we see that key again, so when you come back with that same combination or somebody else comes back, we're in the position to rewrite. It's a very important architectural advantage we feel to have the offline compile process. That's why we have been selected at any large-scale implementation of front-end optimization, because we can scale. And I would argue that some of the integrity checking also is an important part of why we ensure we don't break pages. When we really looked at this, we started at the top of waterfalls, and the first thing that we realized was that redirects were an incredible pain. Here's an example of a page where over 8 seconds are actually redirect time, where you're going from a normal site to an MDOT site and you're being pushed around. These redirects are things we can deal with, we have to deal with. And there are a number of ways that we deal with them. On sites that have redirect, we can essentially make them go away using our redirect suppression feature. There are a number of other mobile-specific features. One of them is just-in-time HTML, where we only load the HTML that we need to draw to create that first screen. This reduces the initial paint and redraw times, and we've seen significant advantage when HTML is big to just load the HTML that's required. We also have built the mobile super cache, and this is something that it really is one of the main differences between a desktop phone and a mobile phone, is how caching works. When we studied caching, and there have been other studies out there, we have found that our that mobile caches are obviously significantly smaller. They're much less resilient. We see caches being cleared constantly, phones being turned off. We even saw this during recharges as we looked at our banks of phones and studied how caches work. We had to completely change caching. So we built a mobile super cache. This super cache is something we have complete control over, leverages the scaffolding of HTML5, and allows us to script or control exactly what's in cache, with the order of that, manage the invalidation, make sure that what's really important is there, so that sites that have the mobile site optimizer remain in cache and are available. This is a very important optimization and feature within the product. I'm seeing a few questions about some of these features, and I'll circle back to that at the end, and they're slightly more technical. Another important feature, again, given that we have this 10-to-1 principle, one round trip's really important, is our third-party timings and SLAs. So we have the ability to take a request. You'll see an Optimos request here. We're able to defer it, which we've traditionally been able to do. If it's in line, we can put timers around it, or essentially a service level agreement with the customer. We can say, if it takes more than 200 seconds, kill it, and bring it in, defer it, put it at the end. So we actually have a number of mechanisms that we can leverage here, from deferral to time capsuling it and saying, if you don't load in a certain time, defer. We also have the ability to cancel. Very important elements that lead to faster mobile sites, response on a mobile device, because all of these requests matter. We are the pioneers in integrating Speedy. Speedy is now supported in Android tablets, very soon to be supported in the Android release for the smartphones. We don't have time today to get into Speedy, but it really transforms how we manage our connections and how we manage our relationship at the TCP and HTTP level with the customer. We've seen significant gains, and something that we bring to the table, obviously, for our mobile customers. We have also the ability, and this is one, as I alluded to when I talked about the architecture, to make on-the-fly payload decisions. We know if a customer is coming in on Wi-Fi or 3G, 4G, we can make decisions about what to send them. In a Wi-Fi environment, I might choose to do, for example, a lot of preloading. I might want to guess what the customer is going to get for subsequent pages based on our predictive algorithm. If you're on 3G and on a constrained contract where you might only have 1 gig of data, our customers are asking us to be more sensitive to that customer. This is just one example of dynamic payload decision making. There are others that we can leverage to make the best payload decisions based on the connection that you're coming in on. One of the elements that needs to happen as well is image resizing, both the size and the how high res they are. These are things that we manage dynamically within the product and can deal with directly for a smartphone. We also do viewport optimization, where we're eliminating the address bar in certain browsers to give the screen more room. We can improve the viewport optimization, so stretching, moving things so that they fill up the viewport. Again, I don't want to confuse this with making sites look better for mobile in the sense of changing navigation in CSS. That's not what we're doing, but there are certain things around viewport optimization that we can bring to bear. We also do touch event conversion. This is a really important one. Google has announced that for mobile advertising, for example, they're going to take touch into consideration as well as speed. So this is another example where we're going to touch enable automatically sites. Touch is something that if you touch enable a site, you can reduce the transition time for those clicks or touches by up to 200 or 300, 400 milliseconds. So the transition there can be significantly faster. And touch event conversion is something that we've seen really speed up pages by up to 400 or 500 milliseconds. One of the other elements that we're introducing with the mobile site optimizer is our integrity check system. We've always had an integrity check system which makes sure that we don't break pages. We have enhanced that by doing both visual inspection as well as DOM inspection and client-side validation and integrated error reporting. So one of the challenges that you might hear about web content optimization is that it can break pages. We're fully aware of that. And one of the things that we've committed to, and one of the reasons I believe that the largest enterprise customers trust us, is because we take it very seriously. And we have mechanisms like our integrity checking where we ensure that eyes, essentially both ours and the browsers, are on every page that we touch. These are just some of the features that we bring to bear that really support the mobile feature. So I haven't talked about consolidation, which is important. I haven't talked about our minification processes. There are another whole subset of features that do apply across the board and that we bring to bear in terms of optimizing these sites. Now, ultimately, this is all about making pages faster. So here's an example of one of our customer sites. As many of you know who have seen my presentations, I really like these time view presentations. They really allow us to see when start render happens, what the customer's seeing at what point. Here's an example of all the mobile site optimization features and the mobile site optimizer brought to bear on a site, and you see the direct impact here. You see also the direct impact for on an iPhone. For this customer who's a repeat customer, we're really seeing here the value of the super cache, making sure that this is still in their cache and accessible. We are very excited about this product. You can hear from my enthusiasm and probably see from all of the great press that we got on the launch. Product is currently in beta, going to be available in Q4 to our customers. We have a long list of people waiting in the queue for this. And at the end of the day, this is about the fact that your customers are asking to consume on a mobile device. They need that experience to be fast. This is a whole new, as we learned over the last year, this is a whole new subset of features and development that needs to take place. Your site has to change yet again, like it did when the world changed browsers. And the web content optimization, the ability to automate this, makes a huge difference in performance. Makes a big difference to our customers in terms of revenue. We're going to be releasing some stats in a conversation that I'm having at keynoting the Velocity Berlin conversation, where we've done a real horizontal study of our customers and the business value that they gain by optimizing for the web, for the mobile web, and for mobile browsers. There are a lot of questions. Unfortunately, I'm already at the time limit. Tried to weave some of them into the conversation. We will get back to you all individually about this. Feel free to reach out to me directly. Feel free to reach out to the business, and we will be happy to answer those questions. I hope this was informative. I appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. Have a wonderful day.